Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about one of the biggest changes in stances I have made since coming to YouTube Fitness, and that is changing my original stance of saying strength athletes, people who are worried about maximum strength, should do zero cardio. Cardio is bad. To switching over to telling people that strength athletes should probably do less cardio every single day, 7 days a week. That's as big of a flip-flop as you can possibly make. And it's one of those where I have admitted, you know what, I was dead wrong. So let me put on my +5 head of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about why I made that change of position about 3 years ago. Is it 3 years, maybe 3.5? I immediately changed my stance. And that's how things should work in the real world. When you are presented with very, very strong evidence that you are wrong in a position that you have put forward, even a position you put forward publicly, if you really care about finding the truth and you really want to be honest, you have to admit what you were proposing is wrong, and there is something that's absolutely better. And it's better in all possible ways. It was one of those that I was so overwhelmed by it that I said, you know, I've got to change my stance. I don't have a choice. I can't be intellectually honest unless I change my stance here. I have to. And how did this happen? Why did I say that before? Well, because a lot of top coaches around the world who coached top-level Olympic athletes were even saying this. If you want maximum strength and power, you can't do cardio. The reason they said that was that we know that different types of exercise cause shifts in intermediate fiber types. People need to understand you don't just have like 2 or 3 types of muscle fibers. You have a wide variety of intermediate type fibers, not just white, red, fast twitch, slow twitch. There's more than just 4 categories there. And there's a lot of intermediate fibers in between. And what's been noted is that the type of exercise that you do dominantly tends to cause some of those transient fibers to structurally change into the next nearest type of fiber from them up the chain. You know, there's about 20 different types. The one that's like 15th might change down to the 14th if you push it in that direction. They can change into the other various intermediate fiber types. And the idea there is that, well, some of your possible mid-range strength fibers could be converting to more endurance oriented. They're going to produce less force. All right, less force is going to equal less maximum power. Now there is something to that. That is true to some extent. But what I started looking at was the data that Alex Viada had turned me onto. Alex Viada, who's with the owner of Complete Human Performance, wrote The Hybrid Athlete. I've interviewed him before on this channel. He put forward enough information with what he was doing with his athletes that I realized I was wrong. I changed my stance kind of based upon that, and then Greg Nuckols afterwards came out and put forward his data on it, his information, and he proposed the same ideas. So you started seeing trends in the industry among really good, educated strength and conditioning coaches who actually have the serious credentials started changing in this direction and putting this out there. So I was caught right in the middle of all of that and changing my stance. Being kind of on the cutting edge of it, because it's true. They're right. These guys are right. And what really happens, there's a number of different things going on. When you start doing significant amounts of cardio, if you haven't been doing any, you've already built the strength base, you do lose strength. You will initially see your maxes go down. That does happen. And that's a very, very scary thing to someone who's really focused on strength. A very scary thing. But what ends up happening is that, and Greg Nuckols has broke down charts on this, I don't know what he changed his blog to. It was Strength and Science. He's changed it to something else. But Greg Nuckols, he's pretty easy to find with this stuff. He had put out charts kind of showing that what ends up happening over time, as you do start increasing the amount of list cardio you do, your body has to adapt to that. Your max squat will go down a little bit. If you got a 500 max squat, it might drop to 450. It might drop to 460. It might happen, all right? It might happen, and it might stay there for a couple of months. But what ends up happening, once you start adapting to that workload and your body starts getting better at building capillary beds, clearing waste products, the cardio makes you more efficient at recovery, all right? That's the thing. Low-intensity cardio can help your body recover better in the long term because it increases the ability of your muscles to clear out waste products. All right, and in and of itself, it is a very, very low fatigue form of exercise. Meaning, if you were to come do a bunch of cardio of different types, you would find that if you burned 500 calories doing low intensity cardio versus medium or high intensity cardio, the more intense the cardio you do, the more it fatigues you. The more it affects your total maximum recoverable fatigue, which is something you see Dr. Mike Israel talk a lot about. It will cut deeper into it. Less cardio, calorie per calorie, has the least fatiguing effect on your body of any form of exercise. It doesn't cut into your recovery. All right, so it cuts into your recovery very minimally, and it is that initial cut into recovery and that initial shift in transient fiber types that causes that initial loss in strength. But what happens over time, once your body adapts to it and gets used to you doing it all the time, you start getting stronger again. And what Greg had found with people noting is that people who were at a certain strength threshold, you took two different people and have them at a certain strength threshold, and you have one of them start doing the list cardio, the one who doesn't do it will be stronger than them for a while. But eventually, at around the 6-month mark, their strength will have a return to normal and will start moving forward. And if they continue to do this by the end of the year, they are oftentimes slightly stronger a year into doing it than the person who didn't do the cardio. And there's a number of reasons for this. Number one, over time, it improves your recovery ability. Recovery is everything because recovery affects how much muscle you gain, how you adapt to muscles, meaning you don't gain muscle during the recovery process. So if your body is slower to recover from a given training session, you will gain slightly less structural changes from it, and that includes your muscle mass, right? Because it cuts into your growth time, cuts into your adaptation time. So the faster you recover, you can sometimes gain slightly better adaptations from training. Number two, if you recover faster, you can train more often. If you can train more often with more volume, will you not gain more muscle mass if you can recover from it? In other words, if you can increase your training, your weekly training loads by 10% or 15% and recover from them at the same rate, aren't you going to gain muscle faster? Yeah. Aren't you going to get stronger? Yeah, because you know what? Your volume affects your neural efficiency. It affects your force production, the ability of you to utilize the muscles you have efficiently to create force. So the training volume, the extra training volume that you can do can increase your neuromuscular efficiency on any given exercise because you can do more workload with it per week and at higher frequencies overall. So your weekly tonnages can go up and you can recover from it. That also, when the weekly tonnages goes up, what happens to muscle mass? That increases as well. It is going to allow you to get bigger and stronger slightly faster due to the enhanced recovery. The other thing, a big perk for most of us who lift weights, a lot of people who lift weights, we like to eat, or else we wouldn't be lifting heavy. We wouldn't be sitting at above average body weights. We like to eat. Cardio lets you eat more food. All right, if you're burning 500 calories every day doing low intensity cardio, that is an extra 500 calories of food that you get to eat and enjoy. So if your maintenance is 3,500 or even 3,000, let's say your maintenance is 3,000 calories, that lets it go to 3,500. You get to eat more food without gaining extra body fat. And here's the kicker. When we talk about eating more food, there are anabolic benefits to food. Everyone knows this. All right, food, calories, particularly carbs, cause your body to produce more anabolic hormones, particularly things like IGF-1 in the muscle tissue. The problem that you have is that too much food can reduce insulin sensitivity over time, and as insulin sensitivity over time is reduced, because your muscle tissues aren't necessarily getting as much of the food and everything else, as much of the nutrition, it's particularly when it starts going to body fat and things, insulin sensitivity can go down slightly. Well, when insulin sensitivity goes down, you lose some of the anabolic benefits of the food. But when you are burning the energy through physical activity, the extra energy, what happens? You eat more food without a negative change in insulin sensitivity. And if anything, your insulin sensitivity tends to go higher because your muscles are using more fuel all the time. They're getting more fuel, but they're using more fuel. In other words, your 3,500 calories that you're consuming now has the same anabolic benefits in terms of hormone release and everything else in the muscles that your 3,000 had before because you're burning through it, or the 3,500 would have had without the cardio, but without building up extra body fat, without building up insulin resistance in the muscles due to the surplus food, or just insulin resistance in general. So what happens over time, the higher energy turnover while using a very low fatigue method to do it. Meaning burning 500 calories through less cardio won't really affect your training. You're not going to overtrain from that. So it's allowing you to eat extra food and gain an anabolic benefit of extra food through burning it through activity, which is going to improve your overall insulin sensitivity because energy in and energy out. And you're doing so with a training method that doesn't fatigue you. When we do this with GPP work and other stuff, people eventually start needing anabolics and everything else to keep up because they can't recover. And I mean, that's a great way to do this and get away with it in the short term, but eventually you reach a point to where you can only recover to so much workloads. When you're doing it through this lower intensity activity, you don't reach that threshold as easy. You don't overtrain as easy. I'm not saying people shouldn't do GPP work or strength athletes, but I'm saying that adding in the extra lifts will make more efficient use of you being able to overeat and eat more calories to create a more positive anabolic hormone environment in your muscle tissue. Again, the release of more IGF-1. In short, it lets you eat more carbs without the negative benefits of it and only the positives. Again, over time, this can contribute to more progress. This can contribute to better body composition. This can contribute to better muscle mass. This can contribute to better strength. All right, without suffering a lot of the negatives that you would get from either excess training or adding too many extra calories in. So really doing this is a win-win all the way around, and this is what coaches are finding who are having athletes do this. Athletes who do list cardio almost every day for extended periods of time, they end up being better strength athletes for it. In addition to the fact of what else, you're going to be healthier. All right, someone who does no cardio versus someone who does 30 minutes or an hour of low intensity cardio every day. All other factors being equal, who's generally going to be healthier? Who's going to have a healthier heart? Who's going to have better blood work? The person who's doing the extra cardio. It's good for your heart. It's good for your body. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.